Ms. Vivian?
Can y'all see my view?
We absolutely can. Ms. Vivian, can you hear me? Unmute yours.
I have us live streaming on YouTube. I thought we were starting it.
Call the meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order Friday, January 29th at 10:01. Ms. Rakowski, would you like to call roll, please?
Mayor Lake?
Here.
Councilman Brown?
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have everybody present for the Budget and Finance Committee.
Are there any public comment cards?
I have none.
Excellent. Can we go to item 1? For year ending 2019-2020, the audit review. Mr. Million, would you like to present the audit?
Sure, thank you, Karen. And again, we sent out a draft and we labeled it preliminary draft because, as you know, the Keystone Air Park is part of this audit, and it's that part of the audit still ongoing. But the purpose today was to give you an update on the city's financial statements and how that audit went. And then I can return once the air park's finished for the final product. So a lot of the pages, you'll see zeros in the air park area and some bold prints and some items that are gonna be adjusted in the draft that you were presented. And that's why we call it preliminary results, because there's some changes that will be made.
Okay.
But with respect to the city, as you recall, we have the 3 funds that we tend to focus on: the general fund, the CRA fund, and the cemetery fund. So that's what I wanted to kind of touch on today, and just the internal controls that we have in place here, and the things that we were trying to accomplish during the year. But thanks to our good old COVID, this year we kind of say it's kind of a hiccup type situation where we didn't get to accomplish the things we wanted to. And then on top of that, your independent accountant, Rebecca, she had COVID in October, probably the most critical month that I like to have her come in and do some things. And so a couple things were kind of overlooked, or maybe we wanted to improve upon with respect to the findings last year that we'll get to. But as I always like to do, I kind of like to look at the budget results, and I always start with the general fund, and that's on the page 38 in that preliminary results. And you guys always do real well with monitoring your budget. You're staying well within your budget. That's usually the main criteria that we have. And so when I look on page 38, you know, we always look at the revenues and then the expenditures, and we always have you budget those programs, the grants. You had the CDBG, and then you also had the CARES Act. And so when you look at intergovernmental programs, that large line item, you see a large negative of over 490,000, and that's really where that stems from, because we're budgeting the full amount, not knowing how much we're going to realize, and it's just kind of playing safe that way. If you look down at economic environment, that's the CDBG grant, and then the public safety, you can see you're real positive in the expenditures. That kind of offsets that number up above. So you have these big fluctuations in your budgets, and generally that's the main reason why. Of course, with the COVID, you have some unexpected delays and shortfalls and reductions and so forth, so those are kind of expected too. So we kind of have more fluctuations this year than you typically expect, but that explains why your revenues forecasted were less than, you know, your actual revenues were less than your budgeted, and kind of the same deal with your expenditures. Nothing really sticks out. The transportation, it's always difficult. Again, it's kind of like a grant deal. You budget a large amount, and you're not sure what's really going to happen with your road pavements and so forth. It's really hard to predict the timing of the work. And so that's why we have those favorable variances there. So I just wanted to point that out. And then on the following page, when we look at the CRA fund, again, you're kind of budgeting projects and some of them don't come to fruition. So we have all those favorable variances. Really no surprises there. I'd also like to add that on the CRA fund, we didn't have any accounting adjustments. So that's always positive. If I could also get back to the general fund, we had one accounting adjustment that was unexpected, and that related to that intercompany transaction between the general fund and the cemetery fund of the $50,000. That was kind of something that cropped up last year and happened again this year, and I'll get to that, but it's basically making sure that those transactions are consistent between the funds. And that's what we sat down with Rebecca, and we want to make sure she's got the time allotted. You'll make sure that if Lynn could communicate with her, you know, and if you need to spend a couple extra hours when you come in to kind of look for these items, you know, we'd really like for you to do that, because we're kind of counting on them, and so are you. I've kind of jumped out of position here, but just to point out, like when you get your financial statements, the first thing I saw at the end of the year when I got the financial statements for the general fund was just a negative accounts payable of 40,000. And so a lot of times we don't focus on the balance sheet when we're looking at our monthly financials and so forth. But anytime there's negatives, that should generate a question, why? You know, why is that negative? Okay, now let's go look. Okay, Brad made an adjustment to that at the end of the previous year, okay? So why is it still there? I think that maybe she didn't take it as far as we'd like. You know, she kind of, oh, Brad made an adjustment, it should be okay. Well, there was a transaction that affected that account after I made the adjustment. So what I'm encouraging Rebecca to do is to investigate those negative balances. And as it turns out, that was the reason it's a negative 40 is because it includes a negative 50 from the cemetery transfer. So on the cemetery side, we're showing money coming in, but on the general fund side, we've got it on the balance sheet, not money going out. So it's easy in hindsight to look at it, and I know that she was bothered by her health at the time and so forth. Or we just want to encourage her to, you know, ask questions and make sure those transactions match up.
So can I ask a question here? So is October the time of the year when those transactions are usually made? Is that, I mean, was that the
That's
issue?
unfortunate because last year this problem cropped up the previous year, and that's exactly what happened. One fund recorded it as if it happened in September, and the other fund said no, we received it in October, so they weren't consistent last year, and then the same thing kind of cropped up this year with a slightly different
Twist.
twist to it. And so I'm always trying to get her to be extra careful at the end of the year.
Is there anything that we need to do or staff needs to do in order to make that more consistent?
Well, yeah, and it goes to when the financials get distributed on a monthly basis and you're looking at them, you know, anything that you don't understand, you know, what's going on here. One of the processes that will maybe make this easier is where we're trying to reformat your budget to actual and making that a little easier to read. And then also having the two other funds, the recapitalization and infrastructure, as separate standalone reports. They're not combined in with this, so it'll be less cumbersome.
Okay. And are
Madam-
we moving towards that?
I'm sorry?
Are we moving towards that? Is that
Yes,
the?
and actually, our next item on the agenda is a discussion on Rebecca's fee structure. And the roundtable conversation that we had with Mr. Million and Ms. Rebecca was how to better look at those types of transactions. The conversation was that there was journal entries that were made by our auditor, so our CPA didn't move forward with some of the things because it was done. So we've had some conversations on how to better improve that, and that's going to affect her pay schedule. And so we'll look at that at the next item.
Okay.
Yeah, just as a quick aside, like, this is the end of your financial statement, and there's so many subtotals and so forth, and it's just, when you look at it, it's just inherently kind of hard to read.
Yeah.
This was the year-end financial statement. I didn't give you a copy of it. But I mean, when you look at all those different, you know, just, it just doesn't, it's not easy to.
It's not easy to read.
Yeah, and then also included, there's plant and equipment income account with a negative $29,000 balance.
Why?
Yeah, that was an expenditure, it shouldn't have been posted to there, and again, part of that problem is just the way it's kind of reads, and so. What we're hoping to do is to, I'll show you a quick, like, if we can get it simplified, what we do is we go into QuickBooks, and we'll add in accounts, and you can indicate, all your existing accounts can fall under these different categories. And so when you look at it, you don't have all these different accounts to read, you just have a few that you look at, and then you can see right away if
If
it's
there's a
over.
discrepancy.
Then you can dig in and drill down to why it is and so forth. But it's just a little easier to read. So at any rate, you're staying well within your budgets for both the general fund and the CRA fund. Their balance sheets are real strong. If we want to shift over to the cemetery fund on page 16,
Page 16.
excuse me, I said that wrong, 19. So no surprises here for the cemetery fund. You never can predict how many lot sales you're gonna have. And then you see that transfer from the general fund down below, that 50,000. And a lot of that's getting capitalized as assets because you've done the remapping of the cemetery, which is very beneficial. And then you're also gonna be working on the mausoleums where you're gonna be adding in those urns and so forth, which really hadn't started in this year. But those are a lot of two positive projects that you have over there. So next year, this current fiscal year we're in right now, we'll probably have a situation where we'll probably be adding inventory for sale. You'll be having more items for sale, and so there'll be some accounting adjustments. And then on page 18, your inventory, which we're showing is $9,000 now, the cost of that mausoleum will be added into that, and then we'll determine how many different units you'll have for sale and divide that additional inventory by those units to get a per cost that we have and so forth.
Excellent.
And Mary's also showed me the extra, you've used that new software for your cemetery, so the engineers went out there and were able to remap the whole deal and get a real good handle on the number of plots you have available. So there's been a lot of positive things happening over there. And then with that new software, it should be easier to track what's been sold, what hasn't been sold, and having that, because that's a tricky situation when it's not like you can go, I got this, you have to be real careful with those things. So I understand they actually went through there and really did the best they could in mapping that, so that's a positive. And again, your balance sheet is real strong as far as that goes. You have very little debt when it comes to all three funds. You paid off that bond in the previous year, and so all that's real positive. Those were really the main items I wanted to focus on. That last year we had two findings, and we're going to have to leave them in this year, and that's on page 41. And again, we call it a material weakness because it was such a large amount, the $50,000 amount. And again, that's just being consistent. I think the girls are gonna get sick of hearing me say this, we just wanna be consistent with those transactions. Basically calling it income from cemetery, we should be calling it expense on the general fund side, so we'll
Right.
get those to match up. Then the second one was that unrecorded interest. Now, it was just kind of a quirk there, what happened. They did what I suggested, and they set up a separate general ledger account for each CD, so you could go in there and see that the interest is posted. It just so happens when they made that adjustment in the fall, they had one existing balance, and the money they transferred over to the two separate balances did not reflect the interest that was earned at the very beginning of October. You had two CDs that the interest earnings were getting posted only once a year. And one of them got posted on October 1st, and one got posted on October 6th. And so the interest for the first quarter really didn't get recorded. Now, what I try to tell, what I'd like to do, and what I encourage Rebecca to do and Mary to do, is anytime you post the interest, just like a bank account, then look at the ending balance, and does that match the balance that the statement has? Well, sometimes these CDs, they don't tell you what the balance is. Or if they don't, we need to start requesting that you have a balance. So when I make an adjustment for $400, my ending balance is $62,800. Well, what does the statement say? You know, make sure they match. And so there was just that little hiccup right there, and it was really because of all this interest that was earned in October. So now when they post interest each quarter, look at the ending balance after you make an adjustment, and is that what it should be? It sounds pretty basic, but you know, just one of those things that just didn't transpire, and so it's easily correctable.
Okay.
And so we just wanted to leave that comment in there one more year just to catch that. I think that your bank has been proactive in those two CDs that where the interest was only credited once a year. They're now crediting it on a quarterly basis. And are they giving you the ending balance too, the statement balance? Now when you get I don't know if you've gotten one since our last conversation.
I'm able to pull them offline.
Yeah. So then that's easily, you know, that's something that can be taken care of. I always mention the bad things, but you know, we've done the payables really tight. They've been really good, accounts payable. I know sometimes you're reading your budget reports on a cash basis, but when they're inputting the bills, you know, they're inputting it based on when they've earned it. So we can do the accrual basis. We don't have any adjustments there. For the receivables, they do just be consistent on the cash basis, and then I'll come in at the end of the year and make the adjustments that are expected. So that's fine. And so all in all, we did real well. We just didn't get those small things, you know, corrected that we wanted to in the previous year. And I'd like to think that, you know, with all the distractions with the COVID and so forth, that had a lot to do with it.
We've been busy.
Yeah. And I don't see everything that goes on every day, but yeah, when you can't come in and you got all these distractions, and then those interlocal
You have to close out $750,000 in CARES Act.
Yeah, the pavilion and so
Yep.
forth.
Yeah. It's been crazy busy. Do you have any questions, Mr. Brown? Ms. Rakowski, anything else to add?
Not on the audit standpoint. We've had several really good conversations. I'm pretty excited about the direction. We'll talk a little bit about that, the next agenda item that we're going to be heading for this current fiscal year, moving into next fiscal year, to be able to clean up that conversations that Mary's had with our banker to allow her the information that she needs to better suit our financials. I think that we're moving in a fantastic direction.
All right. So we look forward to your next visit when you have the airport done.
Sounds great. You're welcome.
Ms. Rakowski, you want to take up CPA revised scope and fee?
Yes, so as Mr. Millian mentioned in his audit report, there's a couple of things that we're working on this current fiscal year. We're revising the budget to better meet the needs of the audit. This is something we've been working on for the past couple of years and kind of baby stepping it through. The first step was to make sure that we had the separate accounts. We've got separate ledgers in our QuickBooks. And then the next is really going through the budget itself and fine-tuning those line items and putting those those specific line items where they need to be for auditing purposes. With that being said, Ms. Rebecca has brought to our attention that she has been at the same hourly rate since she's been employed with the city or contracted with the city of Keystone Heights, that her rate will be going up. And then moving forward on her new rate versus what it was, we also discussed the possibility of putting her on a retainer, a monthly retainer, which is what you see, the proposal that you see in front of you today. That would be $500 a month. That averages to a little about 3 hours of her time a month. However, she will be going through all of our books with a fine-tooth comb to help better catch some of those findings that Brad was discussing. One of the conversations that we had was that her original scope of work didn't go into detail as what Brad was really asking for her to do in different reports that we don't generally see on a regular basis. So if it's the recommendation of Budget and Finance, I'd like to go ahead and put her on a retainer of $500 a month so that she can really look at our books and then help us move forward into what we need to do for our budgets for auditing purposes.
For the record, can you tell us what we were paying her?
$75 an hour.
$75?
And then her new rate is going to be $125 an hour or $500 a month.
Okay.
I personally think that's very, very fair for having a professional on a charge like that. I'm not gonna say any more because she might want to charge more, but that's very fair.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we were looking at the entire picture. So, Mr. Brown, is it your recommendation or our recommendation to move that we retain her at $500 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can you make that a Budget and Finance recommendation to council, please?
I sure will. And just for your visibility, we will be receiving a ton of work for her on that $500 a month. She's going to be taking back some of our books to her office and utilizing some of the tools that Brad has given us to help implement that into our budget.
Okay. Is it proprietary? I mean, should we be concerned that it's going off-site or not?
So I love these screens because you guys don't have to wear masks. However, it's very difficult to see you and I can't hear you unless you talk into the microphone.
Okay.
Sorry.
Should we be concerned that proprietary information is going off-site?
Oh, no, ma'am, not at all. This is something that she's done frequently, has been able to take her QuickBooks, and Brad does the same thing, takes
Okay.
a copy of our QuickBooks.
So we're on item 3, year-to-date financials. Ms.
Year-to-date
Rutkowski?
financials, now, these are not the month-end financials that you'll be seeing in your council packets Monday night. These are something special and a little bit near and dear to my heart. We have a little bit of work to do on them still, however, this reflects the closure of CARES Act and all of our money is put back to where it belongs.
Oh,
So they are a little bit raw, but they were pulled 2 days ago, so they are a true snapshot as opposed to last month's month-end reports. And so I don't know if there's any specific questions that you have, but I wanted to go ahead and give you these tools for the purposes of our conversations throughout this agenda.
just as a formatting issue, column 3 doesn't have the commas.
Yes, there's a couple of things. Like I said, this is a true 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I asked Mary to please run me a year-to-date reflecting right now because we were able to move the money after the final check hit our account.
I have a couple questions that I wrote down this morning.
Sure.
One is the contingencies.
In general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 2.
Yes, sir.
Under the council mayor contingency,
Yes.
is $1,935.48 is what's been spent so far since October?
Yes.
What was that on?
I'll have to look at the itemized list. There's some fees in there. Off the top of my head, I know that Vice Mayor Hart has had some fees in there that he uses annually for his bar and his ethics. And then there's some additional fees, but I can get you an itemized report and email that out to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, on page 3, and this is just me asking is,
Yes.
the second item is 513604 IT hosting.
Yes, sir.
We're budgeted for $10,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that include the gentleman that's here during our council meetings? Does that come out of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next one is in the same column, which is the special magistrate.
Yes, sir. So there's a couple of things, like I said, these are raw. I'll give, like, example, the planning services and the special magistrate. I will sit down with financials and find out where that $322 is, like, and there's a couple of different items that need to be cleaned up, as there is every month, but.
Okay, and my last thing, and it's just, something I've noticed, and it's not something we can do right now, but I think we, as a committee and, staff, something I've seen here in the past 6 months is, my personal opinion, I think we really need to see where we can come up with some funds to hire another full-time public works person. We have lost 2 good men that I think was a very big asset to the city, and I know you agree with me. But I think we as a committee and as a staff and a council, we need to, I believe we need part-time people, but we need to, I find this in my own business, because I've lost a lot of employees, but we need to see if we can afford to bring on another full-time person that will learn the ropes and stuff.
So I will let you know that we are going through Public Works individuals and looking at different budget and restructuring that. The 2 individuals that we have lost, the last one, there was absolutely nothing that we could have done.
Right.
The offer was just too good, and in his words, too good to be true. He couldn't turn it down. They wanted him to where he was making more than I was. Yeah, and that's just the case. He was that good and well worth every penny of it.
Right.
But yes, we're looking at the possibility of restructuring and some things that we can do differently within our budget. So that's being handled at a staff
Okay.
level.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Let me ask a question. On the CRA budget,
Yes.
when we look at the Pavilion Community Center study,
Yes.
can we reassign that dollar value?
We'll be talking about that in the, under the CRA, actually, next budget, or next agenda item. So if there are no other questions, we can rock right into CRA.
Yep.
Okay.
What page is that?
It is page, actually, it's 1 of 1, so it's right
Okay.
behind the general fund.
Are there any additional questions? Okay. Madam Mayor, is it okay that I continue on into the next
Absolutely,
agenda?
rock on.
All right. The CRA discussion, so there's a couple of things that we've talked about needing, and that is furniture for the pavilion. I pulled up some rough numbers if we're looking at replacing the furniture with standard rental furniture, folding white chairs, folding white tables, things of that nature. We're looking at the lower end of maybe about $6,000, and these are just rough costs to have for discussion purposes. If you're looking at nicer looking tables, the wood grain tables, or the ones that fold down and roll around, they're gonna be a little bit more costly, and better looking chairs. In that $6,000, there's also high tops budget and some other things that we find that we need. However, we need to have a budget, a line item for that somewhere. And so if it's the pleasure of the Budget and Finance, my thought was, because we did have a feasibility study that's no longer needed this fiscal year, if we can allocate those funds for furnitures.
Could we also include technology?
Absolutely. What kind of technology are you looking at?
Well, we haven't workshopped the pavilion policy yet, but my thought would be we would be able to offer technology in terms of people wanting to rent it for business purposes. So screens, projectors,
Absolutely.
computer.
Absolutely. So within that, I don't know if you just want to rename that line item to allocate those funds towards pavilions, outfitting and furnishings?
Yeah.
And then we can take a look at, probably within the next couple of weeks, bear down a cost analysis on what everything will cost us.
Question.
Yes.
Are you saying something like how motels do conference rooms?
Mhm.
So that if a business wants to come in and put on a
Seminar.
seminar or something like that, they don't have to tote all that, and we
Correct.
provide it, and we would rent that out, part of the rental
Yes.
and equipment? Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
All right, so we're in agreement, we're gonna make a recommendation to reallocate the study funds to outfitting the pavilion.
And then the next item that I had under the CRA is that it was, council had discussions about putting $500 into the agency's budget to put towards the Welcome Center. With the pleasure of the council and the pleasure of the Budget and Finance Committee, I'll go ahead and just add that in here.
Where are you gonna take the money from? You have to reduce something to add that.
We'll probably end up making the streetscapes, round $53,000 as opposed to 53,650 or 53,150
Okay.
and take $500 out of there.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right,
Is this gonna be a one-time thing, or is it gonna be a regular yearly thing that we're gonna have to budget?
For this purpose, it's gonna be a one-time thing, just startup costs.
Okay.
all right, item 5.
So there's more information that was provided to me by Miss Vivian Katz. I've got her in here so she can explain it better, regarding the $50,000 ask for the Lake Region Development Authority. And then this will be on the agenda again for Monday night. So let's see if we can't. Figure out how to work this. Miss Vivian, can you hear me? Miss Vivian, can you hear me?
Okey dokey.
All right, Miss Vivian, can you hear me now? You cannot hear me?
Can't hear you.
You cannot hear me. Yours has to be off, Mary.
Somebody's gotta be on though, she can't hear. One of us has to be on.
Can she hear the chair?
It's, Miss Vivian, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me? That's a very big echo. I'm not entirely sure.
Is that me causing that or you?
Can she hear, Miss Vivian, can you hear me? She can't hear me. So- Yeah.
The best I can suggest is Miss Vivian open up the YouTube. So she's gonna hear the lag. Let me try if I really figure out. Let's see what happens if I have this conversation.
All right, Miss Vivian, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
you can hear me, but you can't hear council.
I can hear you right now.
Hello?
Let's see, hold on one second. I've got one other thought.
can I call her on my cell and put her on the speaker and put the microphone down? Is that what you're doing? Okay.
Hello? So what are we doing?
So I have you on speaker. On my phone.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And then,
Is that me or you doing that?
what did you do, Mary? Well, no. All right, let me see that. Okay, try it one more time, Miss Vivian.
I just took you off of my speakerphone, so does that help any?
There we go. I think we're good.
Okay, okay. All right.
Okay, that was a little cumbersome. I apologize.
It's okay, technology is challenging.
It's
We'll
still
have this
better-
cleared up. So just for visibility, Mr. Brady will be here Monday night to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So we won't have this at our council meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Vivian, we are
Yes.
on the general fund lakes discussion. Lake Region Development Corporation, $50,000. I'll turn the floor over to you.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing you, but I'm not. It's like a I don't know what it is. It's not chopping up. It's just kind of, the sound is different.
Ms. Vivian, it's
Yes.
Mayor Lake. We're recognizing you to pick up this agenda item, Lake Region Development Corporation, $50,000.
Okay, basically, I went before the council at your last meeting. I have, as everybody knows who's listening or watching this, I have spoken to each of you and explained the purpose of the corporation, and the thing that I did not do in that process was add the second page, which was basically asking for the 50,000. I did not include that in my information that I sent to the agenda packet. I did make it clear verbally to each of the council, but I did not do that mechanical thing that I needed to do. So that said, I am asking for that 50,000. I do, if there are any questions at this point about this and what we're wanting to do, I'll be happy to answer questions.
The only question I have, Ms. Vivian, is to confirm that from this 50,000, it's going towards the startup costs of your business, of your not-for-profit,
Correct.
and it's not paying people, it's not going to be a recurring item.
Any startup costs will certainly include, if there is a paid person, as we will have the director who will be on salary. So that will be coming out of that, yes, as it would in any startup. Basically hang on just one minute.
Can you put that close to the microphone? Because
The first year, I'm just going to read this back to you, Mayor, so that, maybe we're clear, and then you can ask other questions.
maybe that's not.
First year funding will largely be spent on staffing and startup costs, e.g. website, technology, advertising, and incidentals. The remainder of the funds will be leveraged in the form of cost share projects with the St. Johns River Water Management District and matching funds for potential grant opportunities such as USDA infrastructure grants, Recreational Trail Program, RTP grants, Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program, FRDAP grants, Space Florida funding, and Florida Department of Economic Opportunity DEO grants, among others. So we're going to be hit the road running. And yes, there will be expenses. We will need to do website. We will need to do business cards. I mean, staples, whatever, office supplies, a little bit of everything. But yes, ma'am, there will be right now one salary. As far as future funding, we will be seeking future funding. And that will, each time we seek funding from any entity, it will be up to their board or their council to say yes or no. So does that help answer the question? And I just lost you guys, by the way, on the screen, so. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, do you have any questions?
On funding, I know this is gonna be a startup, Vivian, but, like, and I might be totally wrong, but does St. John's Water Management have grants for organizations like this?
If this is something I'm supposed to be hearing or answering, I can't understand you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now,
Okay.
yeah.
My question was, Vivian, is St. John's Water Management, do they, do grants for organizations like this?
They do, let me just say this, they do funding, okay, one of the things we're gonna be looking at, Tony, is how we would fit into some funding from them. What we're looking at, we will be looking at both state and federal funding, okay, so it depends on our niche. As to, for example, I've talked to you guys about the Indian River Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
One of their strong points is that they're an estuary, and so they get federal funding, and they receive funding from water districts. Whether we fit into some category because we are an aquifer recharge, those are things we are going to be looking for that we really haven't even thought about before. So in addition to just normal grants, because of our situation, because we're a recharge, not because we're a lake, but because we're a recharge, that's some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at. So I hope so is what I'll say.
Well, I will say the other night when you presented this to council, I still stand behind, going forth. I don't think the city itself is, in a position to go chasing after all this stuff. And if we had an organization like this, with the help of Save Our Lakes and all that, and it will benefit not just the city of Keystone Heights, but the whole community. And
Right.
And like you said, Vivian, it's a recharge area for the aquifer. It's not just going to benefit this community, it's going to benefit all of Northeast Florida. So
Exactly.
I really feel, this council, over the years, we've put money in a lot of things, and I think that being a part of this as a city shows that we're behind the benefits of having an organization of volunteers to do this work that we're just not. Our staff is overworked now as it is, and
Right.
for somebody to come on board here to do this, and we have volunteers doing it, and have the connections in the right places. I see here you got Mr. Thomas from Clay Electric.
Right.
That's a big asset to have somebody like that on your board. I know this has been a fight for many years, and I think, we're going to see the results in the next 5 years or so, hopefully, of our community coming back to what it was back in the 60s and the 70s, and with lots of water. So
Yeah.
I'm still in favor of, let's try to find this $50,000. I'm giving it back to the mayor.
I appreciate, if I may comment about that, I appreciate your comments, Councilman Brown, and I will say that the name of the corporation, Lake Region Development Corporation, says it Lake Region. So this will reach the region, and in that process, we will be seeking additional opportunities for input, both financially and technical expertise and so on and so forth. So but the big benefactor is going to be the city of Keystone Heights, the big benefactor. And so that is the reason we came to you guys first to start the funding. And I think for this to be a 5-0 vote would give a tremendous message to the rest of those folks that we're going to be tapping in every way. I look at Save Our Lakes, and and in the process of forming this corporation, I can't tell you how many times someone would say, well, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, such and such. And I'm sitting there saying, no, I'm sorry. I've done tunnel vision for 10 years trying to get water in the lakes. Well, water's coming now, so tunnel vision needs to expand. Save Our Lakes can't just, stop on a dime and turn into something else. But this is what is needed now, this higher level where everybody comes together and moves forward. So I am hoping for a 5-0 to show total support for what's about to happen.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rakowski, where are you going to find the money?
We have $40,000 that was built into the staff for something of similar when we discussed if it was going to be an agency that we sought after, or if it was going to be an individual that came in that had specific duties, and she can't hear me at all.
Oh, sorry. Hang on, Vivian. I'm
Okay,
give
thanks.
Lynn the phone.
Okay.
Okay, this way everybody can hear.
Okay.
So we have $40,000 that was built into the staffing budget that we discussed earlier at this beginning of this fiscal year for the possibility of a grant writer, but $40,000 wouldn't be utilized for a complete grant writer if we were going to hire out a firm to help go through grant writing, a combination of engineering. We talked about GIS mapping and things of that nature. And so with that $40,000 in combined with being able to utilize the Lake Region Development Corporation to help some of our grant needs, and then the possibility of, we do have the opportunity to bid out our engineering contracts this coming year, that we can wrap up some of these other items like GISing and things of that nature into that bid and get a firm that can give us all of that's included with our engineering and really utilize some of those contracts that we have.
Where's the other 10,000 coming from? Those readjusted engineering contracts, is that what you're saying?
Well, that'll be a conversation that with council will be discussing here in the next couple of months, is that our engineering contract is up, that we can choose to renew or we can go out and rebid. So we can look at those services that we have within our engineering contract, utilize some of those contracting services that we were looking for the possibility under that $40,000 and deflecting that into our new engineering contract. And then there will be $10,000 that I'll go through the budget and we'll be able to find.
You can just take that out of the lakes budget, right?
If that's the pleasure of the council. Absolutely.
Do what now?
The lakes budget has 40,000 in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be a conversation we need to have with Vivian, because that money is set aside for legal defense in case Save Our Lakes needs the money. But if we take the money out of the lakes budget, then that's 10,000 less that is available to them should anything arise in the future.
Is that a question to me, or is that a comment that should I be commenting on this? I don't want to step in where I'm not supposed to.
It's a comment to Mr. Brown to gauge his, actually, it's a question for you too, Vivian. I mean, if we took money out of the lakes budget, is Save Our Lakes going to be upset with us?
Let me make a suggestion here, okay? And I am not a city employee, and I do not know your budget totally. Okay, I know that I went to you and asked for that money, and you guys have been extremely gracious in funding that. And I asked for $10,000 a year, capping at $50,000. Okay, that Mayor is is for lake projects. And so let me just clarify how I would see this, okay? So LRDC is moving along, and one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing in other funding. This is just a possible example, okay? And let's just say that one of the projects that we bring forward is the clean out from Lake Brooklyn over to Geneva. So that's going to cost money. So let's just say, just for, because I have no idea what the cost would be, but let's just say it's $200,000. And LRDC has managed to leverage some funding so that LRDC, and this is all hypothetical, that LRDC could pump in 100,000, and then Keystone could pump in 10, and the county could pump in 20, and St. John's could pump in the rest. You see what I'm saying? In other words, that money, if possible, should be reserved for specific lake projects. So if you can find the funding outside of that, I would prefer that the city keep that for just that, for using to leverage along with LRDC projects that we will bring forward. And it's called skin in the game. And that's what I had hoped that you all, you know, when I did this with the city and the county, I hoped for $250,000. Okay, well, if you think about Black Creek and a lot of other things that are going on, the $250,000 is a drop in the bucket. But it does say that the city and the county, if they write a check for something, has skin in the game. And that's what is extremely important in this whole scenario. So if you can hold on to that, bottom line, if you can hold on to that and not dip into that fund in order to go ahead and start LRDC funding, then, you know, and then future years, we're going to either earn our keep or we're not for you guys. So you're going to either be ready to jump in and say amen and fund where you can, you know, as far as future. If we ask for, like you asked me the other day, Mayor, would we be coming back to you for $50,000 every year? And my answer was, I have no idea right now, but I will say that if we do, and we're doing a good job and you've got it in your budget, you're going to say, sure. And if you don't have it in your budget, then, you know, then you'll figure out what we need to do or what you need to do. So it will always be up to the council each year to decide whether you're going to participate in funding. So, but my bottom line is, if you can, leave that 40,000+ alone for lake projects specifically.
So just quick off the record, I'm not a fan of being up here. I don't envy you guys at all. But with that being said, Miss Vivian, give me just one moment. Madam Mayor and Councilman Brown, if it's the will of the Budget and Finance Committee moving into the, over to the council, the staff, we can find that $50,000 if that's what it needs to be. If we can go through and look at what our actuals are going to be at the end of this year, given the scope of the work of the Lake Region Development Corporation, benefiting our agency, benefiting our businesses, then some funds can be shared out of that. But if it's the will of the Budget and Finance, I don't like this at all. If it's the will of the Budget and Finance Committee, then that $50,000 can be found out, and then I can bring that back in front of you.
I think it's really important, because we are fiduciary agents of the city, to be able to tell residents where the money's coming from and why we're spending it. And so I do appreciate, Miss Vivian, that you have brought to us a document that outlines your short-term business plan. But I also think it's going to be beneficial to residents for Ms. Rakowski to come back to council and show exactly where that money's coming from.
That money, Mayor, that money will be coming from many sources, and we will be. That is our major thing this year is finding funding, and so we cannot, you know, in the next 2 weeks, we cannot tell you where all the funding is going to come from. We can tell you the places that we will be tapping, but they also have to vote and so on and so forth. So it's as this grows, as this moves along and does what we expect it to do, there's nothing that we would do happier than to give everybody a list of funding, agencies and so on and so forth. So I mean, that's very, it would be very open and very clear. Just right now, we're kicking off and we're coming to the city first, because the city is going to be the major benefactor, and the city, we need a buy-in from the city. And I would hope everybody that I've talked to about this, I mean, without fail, they didn't just say, well, maybe that would be a good idea. It's extreme enthusiasm. So
Right.
I'm saying, in my mind, you guys are going to benefit. So you guys need to show your buy-in.
Right. We're not
Yeah.
arguing, that's not the question. I'm suggesting to Ms. Rakowski that in order for residents to understand why we're doing what we're doing, it's going to be necessary to be transparent where the money is coming from the city's budget. Not worried about,
To show it,
Okay.
to show it in the actual budget.
Well, didn't
I understand. Okay, got it.
you
understand.
say the
When?
40,000 of it was already built into the budget for an extra employee for the year? Then all we have to do is find 10?
Yes, sir. So what I can do, if it's the pleasure of the Budget and Finance Committee, and then going to council, is that show you a budget of adding the
$50,000.
$50,000, putting the $50,000 into general fund.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
All right? If that, yeah, if that's the will of the committee, then absolutely.
Show us the money.
Can I be done now?
Yes,
Thank you.
it's okay.
Ms. Vivian, before I walk down there, correct me if I'm wrong, the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee is for me to give a revised budget that's going to show a $50,000 line item in general fund for the Lake Region Development Corporation, and then I can have that to you for Monday's council meeting for that
Yes.
packet. Is that,
Yes.
Yes.
okay?
Okay, all right. Thank you all. My sincere thanks to every one of you. And I'm looking forward to having some exciting things to bring back to you all.
Thank you.
We're going to hold you to it, Ms. Vivian. We'll see you soon.
I try to do my best, as y'all know, and I'm a bulldog. So
You
here we
are.
go.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Ms. Vivian.
All right.
We're
Thank
gonna
you.
close this meeting with Zoom now, okay?
All right, thank you all. Y'all have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, item 6, CIP discussion, beach renovation. Ms. Rakowski.
Okay, so this is going to be a very quick conversation. After the pavilion renovation to the food distribution through CARES Act, we noticed that it was kind of like, forgive my term, but putting lipstick on a pig. The pavilion is beautiful, but now we understand that there's some other hiccups that we need to address, such as our restrooms, the stage area, and things of that nature. I've reached out to Shear Construction to do the CMAR. Again, what it costs, just have him give us a quick cost analysis on what it would take to truly renovate the beach. So take care of that covered picnic area that's next to Geneva Jungle that we'll be utilizing for birthday parties now, and we can look at that in the workshop as rentals as well. Taking care of the stage area because there is some structural issues with that, and then the restrooms, and then that ticket center. I got 2 different quotes from them, and again, this came very rough in my email this morning, so it's just for conversation if this is something that the Budget and Finance Committee would like to recommend moving forward with. The total project cost for renovating the stage, which is going to be actually tearing out that stage and pouring a concrete stage. I'm told that that's going to be much better than try to make that stage structurally sound again through decking. Redoing our restrooms. We do have issues with how large the water line is going from the meter to the restrooms itself. It's on a residential water line as opposed to a commercial. Tearing down the ticket center and then just fencing that off. And then so we have 2 choices. It either goes away or it goes away and be rebuilt, but we have termite damage, lots of termite damage there. And things of that nature. The whole cost with design and engineering fees is going to be $225,000. The conversation that we've had a couple of times is with or without a covered stage, a band shell. This is something that Councilman Peoples has brought forward a couple of times. It's going to be about a $25,000 cost. So your choices are $200,000 or $225,000 if it's going to move forward with or without that covered area.
Okay, say that again.
$25,000, so it'll be $200,000 without the covered area and $225,000 with the covered area.
But that Is that just putting a roof on it and no sides or anything like that? Or,
It'll be 4 posts and a roof, and then there's already electricity there. The electricity will remain. That's adding lights and fans for circulation. And so all of this, understand, the covered area to the I don't want to call it a band shell, but the covered area to the stage, the restrooms, and the new pavilion, covered picnic area, will all mimic the look of the pavilion, so it'll tie in and be a nice park.
so a metal roof?
Yes,
Okay.
same colors, same concept. With that being said, 200 or 225,000 is a pretty steep amount. There's ways that we can find this in CIP, but before I put in a whole bunch of homework into it, I didn't know if it was, it needed to start this conversation here in Budget and Finance, and then we'll move it over to council if it's your will to talk, to see if this is a project that you want to go on, to move forward with.
My question about putting a roof on that band shell would be, would it be high enough so when you're sitting at the tables, you can still, it won't distract from the view of the beach of any sort? But I know from experience, especially 4th of July, when you, in the summertime in Florida, you never know when you're going to get a storm. And there's been several times that we've had to pack up everything off that stage and get it in the pavilion because we had a storm coming. And with doing something like a roof structure on that, where your bands are going to be at, you can always add the plastic kind of covering on the sides. I don't know if we want to do that or not later, but at least have a roof so you don't have to scramble and get, like I said, we live in Florida. We get storms in the summertime come up in no time. But I personally think it'll add a little bit. I've looked at what Stark has, right? When you walk in, it won't be anything like that. The Penny Farms one is basically like the one in Stark with the backing and everything. Well, at least if it stays open, I think a good roof to cover that up when we have people there with the fans and keeping them out of the elements of the sun beating down on them. I think it'd be a good idea. Make it look a lot better down through there. And hopefully we can, when all this baloney with Corona gets over with, we can have bands back, because we got a lot of talent in this town.
So are you looking, so we haven't met the policy committee yet with the rentals there. My concern is blocking the view. I would like to see something, a rough sketch of something from someone.
Oh, and I completely agree with that, Madam Mayor. So this conversation, I didn't want it to make or should we or shouldn't we, specifically with one component, but my ask is it the will of the Budget and Finance Committee for me to explore funding opportunities and to move forward with designs, because that's going to cost us regardless if we have for conceptuals.
Well, I personally feel like the restrooms are a must.
I
Definitely.
completely
I agree.
agree.
Restrooms and taking down the ticket center, that's a must.
And so the restrooms in the ticket booth, we're looking at a $55,000. Now, these are just rough estimates right now, but they're $55,000 plus we're looking at a $14,000 overall design of the entire beach. And so that'll be broken down. So you're looking at probably close to $70,000 for just the restrooms. And then you look over to the other side, the picnic area, the cost to pour a new slab and to really put some attention onto that covered picnic area so it looks like a place that you want to be is going to be a quote of $42,000. And so if you take, 42 and 55, and then our stage itself, we do have some structural issues. So the covered area, if you're going to do a covered area, is going to be about $110,000. A non-covered area, deduct 25,000 from that, so you're looking at roughly 185
For the stage?
for the stage.
So the $25,000 did not include the concrete and the cover that you first,
No, the $25,000 was just the covered portion of it. The stage itself is gonna have, it's being recommended that we do tear up that stage and pour a concrete stage.
Well, like the trail, can we not phase some of this stuff in? Because I really feel like we need to get that pavilion out for rent so that we can,
I think excuse me, but I think our major thing would be the bathrooms.
yeah, well, absolutely. But I'm saying, are we gonna hold off renting the pavilion until the bathrooms are completely renovated?
We do have other options if you're looking at it. So once the fence is installed, then we're looking at putting on the magnetic locks on there to keep out individuals after hours.
Right.
So that the beach will be locked down after 10 o'clock, no questions asked. You can get out, there'll be a way to get out, but it's several feet away from the fence that you push a button and you're able to get out in case someone's down there
Right.
at 9:57. But you won't be able to get in unless you're just hopping the fence or trespassing. But with that being said, we could look at other ways and the means of portalets down there, offering opening up the beach and just cutting or closing off that section as we do phase this out.
Mr. Brown? Bathrooms for sure?
Definitely. Those
Um,
things,
Does
We've
that
always had
include paint?
problems.
Does it include any insulation to that facility? Is it, I mean, how much of an improvement are we really gonna see from this money?
knock it down.
So, so the conversations, and I'll go piece by piece, like I said, with the restrooms, we will have to widen the doors, which is going to cut into our brick. It's going to be a complete clean, repaint, redo the walls, replumb, new fixtures. That means new toilets that are going to, the stainless steel, we're looking at something similar that they use in the prison system to help with vandalism, new sinks, and new entrances into the restrooms so that they are ADA compliant with the current code. So that's what you're getting for your for your restrooms facilities. And then in that restroom facility is also built in the demolition of the ticket booth. Just like I said, it has massive termite damage, and so we're looking at adding storage elsewhere. Really, the purpose that it serves right now is where we keep our toilet paper and paper towels.
Okay.
So for your $55,000, that's what you're getting on the restroom component. So it will be the access, it will have ADA access to current code, which is, like I said, cutting into the walls. It'll have brand new fixtures, and it'll be repiped, new lines being laid. Forgive me, I'm not a plumber, but the water lines will be correct and the plumbing will be fixed inside the building.
Okay. Well, I'm all for the bathrooms.
Okay, the stage area itself, like I said, if you look at it, it has the dips in it, so there's some structural issues. The $110,000 that I was quoted is demoing the current stage, taking it down to the sand, removing everything, and then they'll backfill it, pour what they need to do to create a concrete stage in its place. And then also make sure that the electrical that's being ran there will be up to code, adding the railing that's going to be designed after the pavilion, the same railing along the back side, because we have to, and we have one out there now, and thin railings along the staircase. Both sides will have a staircase going down to the beach area. The question on that is $25,000 will have the covered area that was recommended by Councilman Peoples to Council on Budget and Finance last fiscal year. Then, and that's not a decision that you have to make right now. I'll reiterate my ask is if this is something that the Budget and Finance Committee would like me to dig into as far as coming up with those funds out of CIP.
Yes, you can go ahead. I think so, Tony, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, on the band thing, because of previous experiences. I think it would really do us good to look in to putting some kind of cover on that concrete that they're gonna do. But I think our priority is the bathrooms
I do too.
and start there and do the ticket booth. And then, and depends on, I mean, if this corona stuff continues and we can't have any bands this year, maybe we push it to next year to do the roof thing. But I don't think it's something we need to throw in the closet and not do anything with it. But I think our priorities, like you're saying, is our bathrooms and that ticket booth. I mean, I hate to see the ticket booth, to be honest with you, go bye-bye, but, I mean, it was
I
part of
understand.
it's part of it. But, if it's gonna fall down on somebody because of termites, get rid of it.
I would also, I would encourage the Budget and Finance Committee then, if that's, to make a recommendation and to look at how we're gonna find these funds. And let me go in here and find these funds. And
Okay.
if we have to piece it out, then that's fine, because we also do need to address that covered picnic area. It does need a concrete slab. The covered picnic area does need to be restored and facelift so that it can be appealing. It's somewhere that you would want to go to have your birthday parties.
I hate to say this, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I always thought that was concrete, but it's not. I mean, it's,
So I'll say this about that. I think once upon a time it might have been, but it's not anymore.
I don't think it ever was. I don't remember it now. I always thought it was,
I always thought it was too.
but, I mean, it's just something we put over there when we did the, Project Play thing, so.
Well, and I'm sure it's being used for birthdays, and we
Oh,
want to
yeah.
encourage that.
Yeah, and along with that, and it can go with our rules, you look at those poles, and you've probably seen it, people stick tape and everything, and those poles look nasty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that should
Well,
be.
and that'll be
part
taken
of our
care of through
rules.
the renovations. And
Yeah.
yes, that'll be part of the deposit on, when you place down a deposit, what needs to be done or not done in order
Right.
to receive your deposit back.
Right.
Well, I think for sure you find the 55K for the bathrooms,
Okay.
and then incrementally work in the 42 for the covered. So the bathrooms would be 1, and covered would be 2, and then the stage would be 3. Is that how you would rank them, Tony?
Yeah.
So we'll schedule another budget and finance meeting. I'll put out some dates, and then we'll look at either a phased approach or where to find funding up front, what that looks like as far as renovation. And then we'll move forward. I just wanted to make sure that this was a direction that you wanted to go prior to me.
Yeah, I think, we had talked briefly about this at council, but I feel like if you're driving through Keystone and there's one thing you see when you come through town, you would want to see Keystone Beach be a spectacular venue. And I think all of these projects will help us get there. Anything for the good of the order, Mr. Brown?
Nope. I think we've covered quite a bit.
Yeah, all right. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned at 11:14.